And we're live. Um, Welcome back, everyone. Welcome if you are new. It's been a fortnight, I think, since I did a video last. I kind of had I don't know if it was a head cold or just really ruinous bad allergies. But in any case, I was kind of out of commission for 5, 6 days. And now I'm back feeling fine. And we're going to do a video. So the prompt for this was my wife, who, for better or worse, pays more attention to the news cycle than I do. Uh, I've kind of given up, and she's still engaged. And so she tells me, look at this. Governor Ron Desantis of Florida has basically outlawed climate change. And a bunch of reforms. He signed into effect a bunch of reforms that Florida isn't going to have offshore wind. They probably can't have offshore wind because, of course, they get beat down with hurricanes, right? So someone decided we don't want offshore wind. Of course, you can't have offshore wind, but we don't want offshore wind because, that would be woke and leftist and, green or something. And, un-American. It's un-American to do anything about greening your electrical grid or anything else. My monitor just died. There it is. It's back. I've got a loose cable or something. And while he was at it, he signed into legislation that no laws in the state of Florida can mention climate change. That this is more of what Florida is kind of becoming famous for of late, like the last few years. Narrative warfare, just banning words. It's a thought crime now to think certain thoughts and have certain words. Pretty radical, authoritarian, if you ask me. You just can't use certain words. All right, I guess we'll deal with that. But that's what they're doing. Okay, fine. It's all part and parcel to the we have our own truth, alternative facts. Truth is what you make of it. We don't want to hear anything bad going on in the world. We don't want to be confronted with reality. We just want to live in our self-made truth space, and we'll be fine. And you all can deal with reality or not. We're just going to pretend. And that's kind of what the whole MAGA movement is about. Trumpism, fake news, fake climate change. Climate change is a hoax. The whole thing. Everything is fake. Everything that doesn't make me happy is fake. Everything that doesn't make me happy is a hoax. Everything that troubles me in any way or causes me to lose sleep isn't real. It's weird, right? And that's why in the description of this video I said, in case you've read the description, excuse me, Governor Desantis, there's a gentleman here named Physics. He says he would like to have a word with you. Not everything in the world is real, right? Humans make up a lot of shit. We do. And the three big categories of shit that we make up, and then we don't just make it up. We then obsess over it. We're like, yeah, we have inquisitions. We set people on fire. We have wars and atomic weapons over these things that we made up, and the things that we've made up, and we just carry forward like the Atlas carrying the big rock, right? We just carry this forward all the time. The three things are politics, not real, totally made up. Economics, money, wealth, not real, totally made up. And religion, not real. Everybody has one. They make them up all the time. Go around the world, you'll cross pathways into thousands of religions. You'll walk past people on the sidewalk who believe 1,000 different things. We just make it up. There's nothing to it. And yet, people jihads and all this other stuff over shit that we just make up. But there is reality in the world. There is. Don't despair. There are real things that go on in the world. Although people like to ignore them. Okay, people think that, The Earth really is round. We have evidence for that. We have photographs of it. We can measure it. We can measure the circumference of the Earth from on site on the Earth itself. On the Earth's surface, you can measure the circumference of the Earth. And yet people think the Earth is flat. Well, of course, they can think whatever they like, but that's what they think, right? There are real things, and they think fake things. You could just think the real thing. You could just say, oh, that's the circumference of the Earth. Interesting. Now I know something. I don't know what I'll ever do with that, but great. Now I know something about the planet I live on. It's whatever, 25,000 miles around. Great. People don't believe it. So our big problem with climate change. Now, I have a lot of problems with the words. Again, if we're going to do narrative warfare, if we're just going to make up words and just la-di-da-di-da-di-da our way out of this, then the first issue I have is climate change. That is completely made up. Nobody working in the science of Earth system dynamics is telling you, oh yeah, right, your climate is going to change. Your climate change. Wow, you better be looking for changing your climate because your climate's going to change. No one is saying that because that's dumb. Climate change is not your challenge. That's narrative warfare. That came to us from the Chamber of Commerce, who's all about economics and politics, right? So first of all, let's set aside climate change and let's call it what it is: global warming. Except it's not that either. Okay, if we're going to do narrative warfare, let's not go down the path of global warming. The greenhouse effect doesn't warm the planet. Okay, it heats it. It heats the planet. Okay, let's use the right words. Global heating. It's a greenhouse effect. It heats the planet, and it's heated the planet a lot. Just so you know, even without our enhancements, the planet is a lot hotter, not warmer, hotter than it would be without the greenhouse effect. That's just a fact. I think it's like 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The planet is 70 degrees Fahrenheit warmer because of the greenhouse effect. And Mars, which has no appreciable amount of atmosphere at all, okay, is 70 degrees colder because it doesn't have a greenhouse effect. And living on Mars is not going to be like living on Earth because Mars doesn't have an atmosphere and doesn't have a greenhouse effect. And we do have an atmosphere, and it happens to be somewhat opaque to heat. And so we collect the heat on our planet, and it accumulates in the atmosphere, and it warms the oceans, and it melts the ice, and it does a bunch of other things. And as a consequence, we are some 70 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than we would be without it. It's a real thing, and it heats the planet. It doesn't warm it. That's seriously downplaying what we're dealing with here, okay? It heats the planet. Line go up. And we are adding to the greenhouse effect, and therefore we are contributing to the heating of the planet. It's not climate change. It's not even global warming. It's global heating. Let's just call it what it is, because I think narrative warfare is stupid. Because what we're dealing with here is not how you feel and your feelings and your feels about climate change or global heating or anything else. We're dealing with physics. Physics is a thing. Physics is real. The Earth is really round. It really does go around the sun. Okay, the moon goes around the Earth, and we have a moon because of the Earth was impacted by a small planet and broke off part of the Earth and threw it into orbit, and the Earth got bigger and the moon was formed, and now we have a moon and an Earth system, and we have a molten core. Because we have a molten core, we have plate tectonics. Because we have plate tectonics, we have oceans, and we have volcanoes, and we have all these wonderful things, and we have life. Okay, so there's your physics lesson for today. Go back and look all that shit up on the Google, and maybe you'll learn something over the next 4 or 5 weeks, because that's about 4 or 5 weeks of physics distilled down into 30 seconds. That's how the world works. That's how it really happened. I think the name of the mini planet that hit us was Theia. I have to look it up. Theia. The Theia object hit Earth and created the moon and made the Earth bigger and gave us plate tectonics. Wow. They've actually using seismology, they have located pieces of Theia still inside the Earth. Can you believe that? I mean, it didn't mix completely. Okay, I've gotten off topic. But this is an interesting stuff. That's why we should celebrate the physics of our world. We should celebrate the physics because it's interesting. There's interesting shit going on around us. And one of the things that's going on around us is global heating caused by enhancements of the greenhouse effect that increase the ability of the Earth's atmosphere to trap heat and therefore cause all kinds of changes. And well, I'm not going to call it climate change, because if all that happened was that your climate changed, oh, you'd be gold. You'd be so lucky if that's all that happened, was you got some climate change. But as people are finding out now, go talk to the Canadians up there dealing with their whatever they got, 200 wildfires right now. That's not climate change. That's violence. Okay, that's a fucking disaster. To kind of go along with the last 5 or 6 years of fucking disasters with their forest on fire, right? Go talk to them about, oh, climate change. No, that is not their problem. Their problem is that their forest is on fire. Nearly all of it has burned to some degree or another, and it's all going to burn down to the ground before this is over. And you want some more? If you haven't been paying attention to the news, then this is going to come as a shocker. The U.S. Southeast has been in like one continuous tornado outbreak. They barely get 2 or 3 days between tornado outbreaks. It's just like this continuous thing. And these are big outbreaks. I've been watching the internet, and I jump on these live streams where they stream for like 12 or 16 hours at a time following these tornado outbreaks. And it's really dramatic. It's real interesting. And sometimes they talk about the basis for the tornado outbreaks, and sometimes they don't. Most of the time they don't, because there's just too much going on to talk about the science of it. But there's real science behind tornado outbreaks. There's some real shit going down. Do they ever talk about the global heating aspect of that? How we're changing the dynamics of the Earth system so that tornado outbreaks are probably becoming more common? Of course not. You just ignore that. But, they're making big bank on these live streams for 12 hours, right? They're probably making $100,000 an hour in the streaming with donations and whatnot and running ads and all that other stuff because of the tornado outbreaks. Yeah, they're probably making $50,000 or $100,000 an hour just streaming it. I don't have a problem with that, but it's a big deal, right? It's a big deal, and people in that part of the country, and it's not just the tornadoes, it's the hail. They get grapefruit-sized hail down there. Oh, we used to always get that. Well, now you're getting it over whole states at a time. And, Tennessee, I think it was, had what was the exact word? A flash flood emergency. I think that's what they called it. And you were getting pictures out of Tennessee and, the surrounding areas of houses with water up to the eaves of the roof. Only the roof sticking out. Houses with water up to the eaves. And the most interesting thing I saw from all that, and they showed it several times, even in the night in the news, was a horse standing on the roof of a building. I don't know if it was a horse shed or an outbuilding or whatever it was. It was a small building, but a horse standing on the roof of a building. Now, how did a horse get up there? Well, of course, the building is surrounded by water. So I guess in theory, the horse swam up to the building and not wanting to swim anymore, just climbed up on the roof of the building. That's a possibility. Just as likely, the water was higher than the building at one point, and the horse found the building while it was swimming around, stood there in the building in the water, and the water dropped and left the horse on the top of the building. That's the kind of thing that's going on in the U.S. Southeast. And this is going to go on all summer. And getting back to Florida, Florida is lost. Florida is a goner. It's just completely a goner. The lower third of Florida is already pretty much penciled in to be flooded and uninhabitable. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it could happen in the next 20 years. Uninhabitable. The lower third of Florida, uninhabitable. That's some of the most expensive real estate in the country, in the U.S., is the lower third of Florida. Could simply become uninhabitable. They're already fighting that. They're already fighting back the sea. Now, if you live in Florida, that's kind of your daily reality, that they're fighting back the sea. And the hurricanes are nothing to sneeze at, man. And this hurricane season is supposed to be worse than normal. Let's see what happens to Florida. Now, are all hurricanes tied to global heating? Is all the flooding in Florida tied to global heating? Is everything bad that's going to happen to or has happened to Florida tied to global heating? Sure, why not? Yeah, it is. Yeah, may as well admit to it. Well, and now, and this is the key, and this is why I'm here. So Ron Desantis is probably a moron. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. If you've heard his speeches and heard him talk about things, you realize he's got his his ideology wedged way far up his ass. Okay, he can't make sense of the world. He got elected because he's a populist. He's anti-woke. He's anti-green. He's anti-communist. He's anti-whatever. And all those old people down there, retired from all the other parts of the country, who went there, to play golf and not hear about any problems with the world, gamble and drink and go out on their yacht, and they don't want to hear about any problems. They love him. Okay, so they keep electing him, and they'll elect people just like him until the last dog is hung. Yep, and that could be soon. So, yeah, that's one way to handle your problem with physics. One way to handle your problem with physics. And your problem is that because of physics and the Earth dynamic system and global heating, because of physics, yeah, you're probably tooled. Yeah, probably. Yeah, days numbered. You can just start counting down the days, right? Until you can't live there anymore. You start counting down the days. So one thing you could do is you could simply, elect people who just don't believe it. Global heating? I don't think so. I don't see it. I go outside my door every day and I don't see any global heating. So what are people talking about? It's great down here. Everyone should move to Florida. A great place to vacation. The flights are cheap. The beaches are beautiful. And, don't worry about all of our defenses against flooding, and don't worry about if you're in Florida and the streets all flood for a couple of hours or a day, that's just normal Florida. It's always been like that, and we're used to it, and you can get used to it too. And it's nothing. And for occasional hurricane, who cares? We always got hurricanes. We're Florida strong. Vacation in Florida, we'll make sure that they turn off the tornadoes while you're down here. You can say all those kinds of things. That's what people want to hear, right? It is what people want to hear. So it's not like people are going to say, "What? What's wrong with you? Why are you talking like that? You sound retarded." People aren't going to say that. They're going to say, "Oh, it's all hoax, and the flooding is always temporary, and the beaches are great, and the flights are cheap. I'm in. I'm in with both feet." That's what people are going to say. They're not going to say, "You retarded." They're going to say, "Oh, great. I'm glad it's a hoax." And so it's an easy sell. It's an easy sell. And so when Governor Ron DeSantis says, "Oh yeah, we're just going to strike from our laws any mention of climate change. We're just going to not allow schools to mention climate change, and we're not going to ever have a climate change conference, and we're not going to ever introduce bills to protect communities from climate change, and we're not going to do all this stuff." And I'm thinking, yeah, fine, go right ahead. Climate change isn't real anyway, so go out. You may as well. But as for the global heating thing, as for the Earth system dynamics and the actual physics behind what's just about to clobber you, oh yeah, that shit is real. And actually, now that I'm here on the video and I got to this point, I'm going to point out something that is going to be a little bit controversial and maybe even seem mean-spirited. But I'm going to say it anyway. And I'm going to say it because he may be the first doing this, but he's not going to be the last. This is going to become a pattern with politicians, what he started. And they're all going to do this. They're all going to do this. They're all going to do what he's doing. And they're all going to do it for the same reason. And I'm just about to tell you what that reason really is. Even if he's too stupid to know that he is now going to start a trend, the trend will be real. And the reason for the trend will be real. Not because Ron DeSantis is a genius leader who understands politics to his bones. No, he's doing it because he's an ideological moron. But when other people see what he has done, they're going to see the advantage in it, and they're going to do it too. And you're going to have these laws now all across the U.S. South, all up and down the East Coast, probably all the way to New York. They're just going to outlaw climate change. They're just going to say it's not real. Don't talk about it. All you're doing is scaring people. And so just stop talking about it. And we're not going to have laws to save people from climate change. And we're not going to have laws to improve survivability during climate change. We're not going to do any of these things. We're just going to, here's the word you're looking for, ignore it. Because that's what they'd rather do. They would rather ignore it. And all their constituents, all their voters, all their chambers of commerce, all their businesses would rather just ignore it. They really would. And, and if you're aware that it's physics and that it can't be stopped, and that it's coming, and it's going to get you, and it's going to destroy everything, and everything that we ever thought that was sacred and eternal is going to end. And if you knew all that and you accept all that, then you're going to be asking yourself, why would you ignore that? I mean, if that's reality, if that's physics, if the changes can't even be stopped, shouldn't you know? Shouldn't you admit it? Shouldn't you embrace it and say, okay, this is what's coming? That's one way to do it. Then the other way is just to ignore it. And once the political class sees what Ron DeSantis just did, they're going to say, he's just ignoring this whole thing. Can he do that? If he can do that, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to ignore this. Now, why would they ignore it? So this is where I'm a little bit sympathetic to them, the political class. Even though politics is made up and economics is made up and theology is made up, I kind of understand why these things were made up in the first place. And I kind of understand why they would rather deal with made up things and talk about those constantly than deal with reality, which is why we made up things in the first place. Why did we make up God? Because we were afraid of the lightning. We were afraid of the floods. We were afraid of this. We wanted control. We wanted to be able to pray to someone. We wanted to be able to sacrifice a goat and to feel like we're doing something for ourselves. And maybe if we sacrifice enough goats in exactly the right way, as it was written down by this priest, 4,000 years ago, if we keep doing this thing, then maybe the bad things will be managed, and we'll appeal to God and we'll say, God, please save us from the lightning and save us from the thunder and save us from the floods and save us from the plagues and save us from the locusts, save us from the barbarians and save us from the heathens and save us from the infidels. And if we just keep sacrificing the goats and keep praying to God and keep, doing the thing, we just think we'll control reality. That was the plan. That's why we have religion, and politics is an extension of that. Now we go to politicians. We say, okay, God didn't do it. Can you do something? Well, sure, we'll do something for you. We'll build levees and we'll build dams and we'll build earthquake-proof buildings, and we'll fight physics. We'll fight nature. We'll kill the leopards. We'll kill the wolves. We'll drive them out. We'll kill the Native Americans who are coming after you with their spears and their bows. We'll just murder and pillage and we'll just legislate it, and we'll make you superior, and we'll make you divine, and you'll have everything. And we'll invoke God if that helps. But we don't need to invoke God because we have money and we have industry and we have all these tractors and things. We have guns and cannons, and we can make the world safe for you, safe for democracy and safe for freedom. And you can go to bed at night and not have any nightmares about communism, because even though we kind of invented communism because it's sort of a political economic thing, doesn't matter. They invented communism. We are going to save you from communism, which is a fake thing that we just invented so we could save you from it. Okay. And so they save you from communism. They save you from the lightning, and they save you from the floods. That's what they claim. Right. So first we did it for sacrificing goats. And then we did it, with buildings and bridges and bombs and cannons and now we've run out of runway, basically. But I understand they want to continue doing what they've always done. Just ignore it. Because really, the levees didn't save you from the flooding. It was just something the politicians could do. The people went to them and said, physics sucks. Sometimes it rains and it doesn't stop, and then the river floods and the water spreads out because I don't know what. Why does the water spread out? Why does it come into my home? I don't get it. I'm afraid. I tried sacrificing a goat and that didn't work. What else can I do? Well, we'll build a levee. Oh, that sounds cool. And while we're building levees, we'll raise taxes. We'll have assessment districts. You got to pay up. Thank you. And I get some money. Thank you. And we build a levee for you. And then we have a ribbon cutting, and you think I'm great, and you reelect me. Thank you. And then finally, when the big flood comes, some 2 generations later, we figure out if it worked or not. Right. And in the case of New Orleans, it didn't. All right. But no one went back and dug up the dead people out of their graves and held them accountable because they were dead. They'd already done it, and they'd already left, and they retired, and they were out on their super yacht. And, no one was there to be held accountable when the levees failed. in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina. Well, Hurricane Katrina was physics, right? Right. And the levees failing was physics, engineering, but the engineers are supposed to understand physics, and they didn't, or they didn't care, or they were more worried about money. Again, economics, a fake thing, or they're more worried about politics. Politics is being fake too. And they just set aside physics. They're like, we'll build this levee. It'll look like a levee. And, I don't know if it's going to hold back water, but hey, we may not have a flood event to test this levee system for 100 years. And where are we all going to be in 100 years? We're going to be pushing up daisies after living high on the hog because we built the levee. We got paid, thank you. You got elected, thank you. And, the rest of us walked away from the project. And then the levee failed, everyone died, but we don't care. Yeah, physics wins. But in the meantime, we just pretended it wasn't real. We built a phony, flimsy levee, and when it fell down, wow, I wonder how that happened. Act of God. Again, blame God, I guess. During the during the tornado outbreak last week, some part of Pennsylvania. You wouldn't think of Pennsylvania as being part of a tornado outbreak, but they had one. It was unexpected, unwarned, as they say. None of the models suggested there would be tornadoes, but they got a tornado. It landed in some little town, little burg in Pennsylvania. And it hit a church. And 100 people in the congregation were in the church, and they were singing hymns, and they were having a great church moment. And the tornado came out of nowhere. And they were like, what is that? Well, they're not in Tornado Alley, so they don't know what a tornado sounds like. And so they're like, that's interesting. What is that? If they'd been in, Kansas, they would have said, fuck, it's a tornado. Okay, they would have known just what exactly to do. But these people are like, I wonder what that is. That's interesting. Somebody should go outside and check. Well, after this psalm. And so they were singing. And while they were in the middle of that, because they had video of it, we got to watch. While they were in the middle of all that, the tornado that they were ignoring came along, and it ripped the roof off the church, including the steeple. Just sheared it off like a lawnmower, lifted the roof off, threw it into the back of the church. And there were only minor injuries in the inside the church, where there were 100 people. That could have been a real disaster, right? That could have been a mass casualty event all by itself. And maybe if that tornado had been a little larger, it would have been a mass casualty event. Everyone in there could have died, or nearly so. A crowded place like that. But as it happened, it just tore the roof off, threw it over there. It didn't tear it off and drop it, because that would cause casualties. No, it tore it off and it threw it somewhere else. And they all walked out of there all dazed. And what was that? Was that a tornado? I don't think so. We don't have tornadoes around here. So they walked out. And then the media comes by and say, wow, that was a tornado. What'd you think of that? And the the pastor, whatever he is, the God bag who's leading the church, he was like, well, that was a miracle. I can tell you right now, God is real, because that was a real miracle right there. We just had a miracle. The miracle was that a tornado came out of nowhere, but that's not the miracle. The miracle is that a tornado came out of nowhere, ripped the top off our church. That's not the miracle either. Threw it in the backyard. We're still not at the miracle yet. And left no one in the church with any serious injuries. Probably just like a sprained ankle from falling over from shock, right? Sprained your ankle, fell over the pews, bruised your arm because you fell over in shock, right? So that, and the miracle was, finally we get to the miracle, no one was hurt. No one was injured. That's proof of God. And he's going to talk about that for 3 months. That their church still didn't have a roof. 3 months from now, it still won't have a roof, right? It'll have tarps or something. And, their church is proof of the living God. Because clearly, I'm being sarcastic here, clearly, God looked down on that church and the people praying to God in that church and saved them from nearly any injury associated with that tornado. And of course, my first thought is, hold on a minute. Isn't God responsible for the tornado? In which case, isn't the miracle that God failed to kill you? Because he sent that tornado, right? God knows everything. So God sent that tornado and used the laws of physics, whatever they are up there in the atmosphere, sent a tornado to smack you people when you don't even normally get tornadoes. And you don't even know what a tornado is. You wouldn't know the symptoms of a tornado approaching if someone drew them for you on a chalkboard. And so where'd that come from? That's also the work of God. And all that God did was just kind of screwed it up and just failed to completely kill you. It works both ways. If you're going to make shit up, then we can play this game, right? We can play this game. So Ron DeSantis is saying, oh yeah, well, this climate change thing, this is not real. And everything's going to happen has nothing to do with physics. We're just kind of outlawing physics. We're just going to ignore it. And if it's not real, then we don't have to pass laws to protect people. And we don't have to warn communities that they're in danger. And we don't have to restrict building projects in low areas or vulnerable areas or areas prone to flooding. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to pass any zoning ordinances. We don't have to redline anywhere. We don't have to tell people, yeah, you got to move. We just keep rebuilding, right? It's FEMA money anyway. It comes from the federal government. And when Donald Trump is president, he's going to pour money on Florida. Well, actually, he might not, but that's what they're thinking. He's just going to pour money on us. And so it doesn't matter. Let the hurricanes come. Let them flatten entire cities at a time. Let the storm surge come. Let it flatten entire cities at a time. Let the floods happen every 14, 28 days. And, we get the floods up this high and then it drops down and we add the pumps and we pump the water down and we're just going to build wherever we want, and everybody's house is still worth millions of dollars, and everyone's land is still prime real estate, and the beaches are open, and the tourists are going to come in, and just party on. And what he's really doing, what he's really saying is, by saying it's not true, he's saying just live your best life. If we're doomed, then we're doomed. If we're doomed, then we're doomed. It's like the horse on the roof. The horse never thought he would find himself on a roof. And then one day he was on a roof. Well, now he has a problem. But until that day came, he didn't have a problem. He was a horse sitting in his corral. He was a horse out in the pasture. Who knows where that horse came from? That horse may not have even been associated with that house. That horse could have floated a half a mile in the floods before that horse found place to stand in the flood. It happened to be the roof of this shed. So that's life in Florida now. They're just going to live their best life until the bitter end. That is one way to solve the problem. You're not solving physics, but I want to say right now, you can't solve global heating. There is no solution. Oh, but technology and innovation. No. Okay. No. Or at least show me. I want to see it at scale. I want to see the budgets to build it all. I want to know how you're going to power it. I want to know how you're going to dispose of the stuff that you collect. Show me. I don't mean that some rich nation could do a pilot project to remove CO2 from the atmosphere and now they're all patting each other on the back. Show me how that scales. Because I'm an engineer. I understand physics perfectly well. I understand the energy and dynamics of this entire shit show. Show me. You better convince me. You don't have to convince all these other people out there and all these people in South Florida. You don't have to convince them. They're just going to believe you right up front. But you want to sell that to me? You better convince me. Because I understand it. I understand exactly how it works. And you can't blow smoke up my butt. You're going to have to convince me. In the meantime, until I'm convinced, and I'm not hard to convince, you just have to do it through engineering and physics, okay? When I'm convinced, then I'll believe that you can solve your problem with global heating. But until then, maybe the only thing you can do is narrative warfare. Lie to people. That's something you can do. And that's what Ron DeSantis is doing. He's lying to his people. And you say, well, that's terrible if that's true. Well, okay. But parents lie to their children, right? Of course, Santa Claus is real. Of course, the Easter Bunny's going to bring the eggs. Don't worry. Okay. Yeah, mommy's not really well, but mommy's not going to die. Mommy's never going to die. Nothing bad's going to happen in your life, ever. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's always going to be fine. Don't worry. That's basically what he's saying. Is that wrong? We do that all the time. We do that all the time. Why do we do that? Well, we do that out of compassion, right? Children just can't understand. And so we think we're doing a good thing by saving them from trauma. Well, they're going to figure it out eventually, and then they're going to have a double trauma that mommy really did die of cancer, and mommy really is never coming back, and mommy didn't just go to see her parents in that other place who are also dead. And now you hate me because I lied to you, but I thought it was the right thing to do at the time, and I did it for you, but I also did it for me because I didn't want to deal with your trauma, and now you know the truth, but it kind of doesn't matter. We bought ourselves some time, and now you know the truth. Mommy's not coming back. So he can lie, and my prediction is now that he's done that and he's going to get away with that. Wait, did he do that? Did he get away with that? Really? We can do that now? We can just lie? We can just outlaw climate change? Well, I'm all over that. They're all going to do it. They're all going to do it. And the people who are like the little children, they're going to say, oh, okay, that sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. I don't have to worry about it. You mean all these people are telling me that this is an existential crisis and I should worry about it? You mean they're wrong? That's the right answer. That's what I wanted to hear. It's going to be an easy sell. All up and down the East Coast, all across the South, all through the Midwest, all around California, up into Canada, down into Mexico, down in South America, in Asia, in Europe, in Africa. They're going to all do the same thing. They're all going to do the same thing. Ron DeSantis is opening up the floodgates to something that everybody wanted to do but didn't want to go first, and just say, it's not real. Now, one reason to just lie to children is to save them the trauma, whether that's legitimate or not. Psychotherapists, child therapists will argue with that. Maybe it's not right. Maybe you should be honest, right? But hey, there's a precedent. You lie to children. There is a precedent. You lie to children. So now we're lying to adults as if they're children because of the same reason, to save them from trauma. But there's another reason to lie about this, which Ron DeSantis may not have recognized because he's doing culture wars. He may not have cared about it at the time, but now that he's done it, he probably will care about it a lot, and he'll start leveraging that. And he's going to find out how easy it is to leverage that. And that is that if you say it's not real, and whatever reason you did that, wokeism or whatever, it's just not real. It's a hoax. Then when someone comes along and says, actually, it must be pretty real because we're just getting hit with hurricanes all the time. And I've heard scientists say that that's due to global heating. And we're just going to get pummeled with hurricanes all the time. And you need to help us. You need to get us. You need to move our cities. We need to get away. We need to get inland. We need a better seawalls. They need to be 30 feet high, but they can't interfere with tourism. So we don't know what we're going to do. And people need to abandon the Florida Keys, all of them. And we need to abandon South Florida. We need money. We need relocation. We need walls. We need pumps. We need better engineered homes. We need everything. Oh, and by the way, the insurance company is constantly trying to leave Florida. They're constantly uninsuring our homes. What's that about? I can't get a mortgage. I can't keep my mortgage. I had to sell my house because I couldn't get insurance to cover the mortgage. So Governor DeSantis, if global heating isn't real, then why are these people uninsuring my homes and my communities, my neighborhoods? Tell them to get back in here. Tell them to offer us homeowners insurance. tell them to offer us insurance against property loss, so that we can stay here. We can have our mortgage. Come on, you just said it. You just said it was fake, and they're telling us they're raising the rates and leaving the state because of the expense of rebuilding homes all the time, especially these coastal communities. They're rebuilding entire communities, no, more than once, and they're tired of it, and they want out. They're not going to offer us insurance anymore because they say the premiums would be too expensive. And even if they raise the premiums to something outrageous, they still lose money. It's just not a business proposition anymore, and they're leaving the state. Don't let them do that. We need insurance. My mortgage processor needs insurance. I can't hold a mortgage with the bank unless I have insurance. So, Governor DeSantis, if it really is fake, then don't let them get away with that. And I don't want to pay extra, because you're telling me the climate change is fake. You're telling me that global warming is fake. Global heating is fake. So why is the insurance company using that as an excuse to raise my premiums? Tell them stop doing that. They're just lying. They must be lying, because you just said it's not happening. And he'll have to go to the insurance industry. He'll have to tell them, what are you doing? You can't raise rates. You can't abandon these communities. Global climate change is a hoax. It's not real. And what does he do? Does he sue them? I don't know. But in the meantime, while he's dealing with things like that over here on this side, over on the other side, when someone comes in and says, yeah, our streets are flooded every time there's a high tide, we think that sea level rise. How about you build another seawall out here and make it bigger and put in a bunch of pumps like every 2 or 3 blocks. We can pump the water out. And he'll say, nah, I'm not going to do that. What you're saying is just not true. This is not going to be a recurring thing. I don't have to spend any money on you. Buy your own pumps. Maybe you shouldn't have built there. But I'm glad you built there, because we could use the property taxes and the tourism money and all this other stuff. But maybe you shouldn't have built there, and that's your problem. That was your choice. So you go figure it out. And what? And your premiums are getting high because of all the property damage from the local sunny day flooding. Oh, well, that's your problem. I don't have to help you with that. That's your personal problem. You shouldn't be there. Go move someplace else, or don't move someplace else. Just it's good for the tourism, so you stay right there. But you have to pay for it. You have to fix it. And if the insurance companies won't insure you, well, that's your problem. You figure it out. He can say that now. He doesn't have to take any responsibility for anything that happens in his state due to global heating. He can say it's not true. But Governor, global heating is a problem, and our state is in jeopardy, and we have whole entire communities that are going to be inundated and lost. No, it's not true. I'm telling you, it's just not true. There's no climate change. There's not going to be any sea level rise. It's not true. But Governor, you're lying. The science knows it's not true, and the scientists, it's a hoax. They're in it for the money. He's just making it up, right? He's just talking all the talking points of the denial-sphere, and he's just parroting all the talking points. And he'll get backing from President Trump. Trump will also say, "Oh yeah, federal government, we're not sending FEMA down there anymore. You people you're just dumb. You're just dumbasses. You built in the wrong place. You know that. I don't care if your community's been there 100 years. It's obviously the wrong place. So fix it. Fix it yourself. Tax yourself. Raise your own money. Have a bake sale. Whatever the fuck. You figure it out. Build your own seawalls. We're not coming down there, and we're not bailing you out either. And we're not forcing the insurance companies to come down there and offer you insurance. Figure it out. You're on your own. Climate change is a hoax. There's no physics behind this. And all those scientists, yeah, they're just hoaxers. They're in it for the money. Don't listen to them. I'm not listening to them. I'm the president of the United States. It's a hoax. I'm telling you. I've been telling you this for decades. It's a hoax. Governor Ron DeSantis did the right thing. He said climate change is a hoax. We're going to take it out of every law, every textbook, every classroom, every news program. You can't say it. You can't acknowledge it. You can't discuss the science. You can't look at the science. You can't have conferences about the science. You can't study it anymore. And well, by the way, we're going to shut down NOAA. There's not going to be any other, Earth studies. Earth studies. Why would you study the Earth? We know all we need to know about the Earth. It's all there in the Bible. Everything you need to know about the Earth is in the Bible. Go read the Bible. Read yourself some Bible. Trump will sell you one for $60. Okay? Don't need these people. Don't need these scientists and their stupid satellites and their data collection and their data analysis. And don't even get me started on their models. It's all fake. It's all a hoax. Shut them down. use money for something else. Mostly I'll just put it in my pocket, but that doesn't matter. That's something else, right? I like that use of the money, giving it to my friends, giving it to my corporate buddies as more tax breaks. Just unfund these programs. And the EPA, yeah, unfund them. Yeah, fuck that. That was always a bad, as a hippie thing. Unfund the EPA. Don't need them. Don't need the FDA either. All the drugs you want. They manufacture anything. Anything else. Snake oil? You want to call it snake oil? That's fine. Because when you stop believing in reality, when you stop accepting the reality behind reality, then all the doors open, right? All the doors open. This is the problem with anti-science, is you just become whatever. What is that when you're anti-science? Yeah, you believe in miracles? What? You become like voodoo doctors, right? Voodoo people. Shake a dried monkey's paw and get rid of the demons, and it just goes back to just witchcraft, right? And if you're the wrong kind of rich, well, they can burn you at the stake, because witchcraft is a thing, right? We all know that. We all accept witchcraft because it's the guy with the monkey paw who makes you feel better, even though you're sick and dying. And therefore, other witches, we don't like them. We'll burn them at the stake. And it just rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls. These things didn't disappear because they were dumb. They disappeared because we understood another way. And people's inability to cope with global heating is only offset by our ability to understand it, because they can't. We have science and engineering and the scientific process to understand the world apart from everyone's individual expectations, which is just whatever, folk wisdom. We've gone beyond folk wisdom. We've gone beyond mythology. And the way we went beyond was by actually looking at the world, measuring the world, having instruments, creating methods and processes, lofting the satellites, analyzing the data, discussing them at conferences, publishing the papers, analyzing the papers, discussing the results. That's why we know anything about the world that we do. And Governor Desantis just basically said, nope. And there's good reasons why he would do that. I don't think he's smart enough to know that there's good reasons to do that.
Someone's at the entryway doorbell.
Whatever. He's not smart enough to know that there's good reasons. He's just sort of numbly going through his process. But turns out other people will notice the good reasons to simply deny that it's happening. So that's all I have to say about that. Someone's at the door. I may as well stop this. Might have more to say about it later. We'll see.